Hello everyone, welcome to episode 1 of Techtique Thursdays. This is our very first episode. We're going to do one of these one Thursday each month. We're going to show either a tech that is retro or a rare antique. Today's episode, we have the legendary IBM ThinkPad T60. These were a very common, I will say, computer back in the early 2000s and even way before that. It is made, actually, this version by Lenovo / IBM. We'll get into that here in a moment, but a little bit of history on IBM. If anyone doesn't know them, they are international business machines. They was founded in 1911 and became one of the most influential tech companies of the 20th century. They made a ton of stuff, guys. Like, they made about any piece of technology, anything that went with technology, IBM probably made it. And that included flash drives, hard drives, mouse peripherals, keyboards, computers, like personal computers and laptops and everything. And in 1981, they released an IBM personal computer, or PC we call it nowadays, which really set a good standard for what most computers are composed of today. And then in 1992, ThinkPad was released by IBM, which became to be one of the most well-known and most abused yet rugged computers of that time frame. And they had really iconic features such as the little red dot here, which is a track point we'll talk about later on in the video. And a lot of people don't know this, but like, these was actually used on the International Space Station. So anything that goes to the International Space Station, it is vetted out and it is really used and abused. So these were made to be used. They were dropped, all these IBM ThinkPads. And the T60 was pretty much one of the most popular ones. They came out in 2006. And this computer is from 2007, which it is indicated on the bottom of the computer. But one of the sad things about the T60, and mine in particular, is Lenovo down here. IBM and Lenovo originally wasn't actually tied together, but IBM sold its PC division to Lenovo in 2005. So that's why mine in particular, it has Lenovo, but also on the palm rest and on the lid of the computer says IBM. And then I believe it was for about 2 or 3 years they had the IBM label still on the computers. And then they finally just took it away and then called it the Lenovo ThinkPad, which they had the right to do. It was their own choice, but we do all know and love the IBM logo and do still miss it. But they do still keep the ThinkPad name and model going with some of the newest IBM, or Lenovo now, computers still saying ThinkPad. They still have the track point. Some of them, I think they even have a retro version, if I'm not mistaken, of the T580, which is a very popular ThinkPad version. It was released in around 2018, and it still has the blue key over here, which is really cool. It was like IBM's collars. Their signature red, green, and blue. IBM was always known for their unique and niche products, such as the world technology famous IBM wallpaper. I actually don't have it on this one yet, but it was a wallpaper that was a map. You can look it up, the IBM global map wallpaper, and it had the IBM logo and would actually show all the world times and the zones you were in. Very cool live wallpaper, which back in that time range, I can't remember the exact year that particular wallpaper came out, but for its timeline, it was very futuristic to have a live wallpaper, because by that time everyone was just used to regular standard wallpapers like some of us still use today. So that is a little bit of IBM and Lenovo's history, and now we're going to go over the laptop itself. This one in particular has a Intel Centauro Duo processor in it. No, it's not an i3, i5, or any of the modern. Before that, Intel simply just had names and didn't much have generations. They did have a Centauro Duo 2, which was also available for the T60. This one in particular did not have it, though. The graphics in this particular T60 are by ATI, and this laptop, actually, before I have done anything with it, did come with Windows XP installed, but was Vista capable. However, now I have Windows 10 on this just due to modern day technologies and wanting to sort of restore this laptop for everyday use. But this is the original keyboard, original palm rest, original trackpad, original screen. All of it's original in this old laptop, except for the battery. I did change the battery, because the other one I had some issues. If any of you's ever dealing with one of these, the laptop worked great, even on the charger. I do have the original charger still. Right here is the original charger, and as you can see, it also says Lenovo on it. But very heavy cabled charger. They really gave us some good chargers back then for these laptops. And the thing that always impresses me is the size of the barrel jack. I mean, this thing is ginormous. You can see compared to the end of my pinky. I have a MSI laptop and it's about half the size of this one. So they really didn't want that to break off in the laptop back then. They really did care about build quality and usage. But as I was saying, I did have to change the battery. The other one, it finally went out, and when booting the device up, it would start, would run for a while, but then acted just like the hard drive was going bad, and Windows XP would freeze. But it was not the hard drive. I still have the original Hitachi hard drive in here. I'll show you what that looks like. That's 100 gigabytes of standard hard drive space. And just in case anyone's wondering what a regular hard drive looks like, this is one I took out of an old Toshiba laptop a few years ago. And this is just what your standard hard drives look like. 2.5 inch for most old laptops like this. Nowadays everyone wants SSD, 2.5 inch or NVMe. But back then that was not an option with these. I got the battery off eBay for around $18 if anyone's needing one. And once I put this battery in here, laptop has worked fine, but even with the problems with XP, with the old battery, like almost freezing the hard drive, all I had to do was take the battery out and then use the AC power supply, and it ran smoothly. So that quickly eliminated the suspicion of a bad hard drive. That was not the issue, it was just the battery all along. But by that point, I had already uninstalled XP and tried putting Linux and everything else on this computer. So kind of a sad story with that part. Would like to keep XP on here. Maybe one day I'll get an old CD off eBay or something and we'll throw it back on here. But yeah, this is a 11.1 volt battery, 5200 milliamp or 58 watt hours. So that gives you a good amount of time. And the thing that really amazes me with these Lenovo laptops, and a lot of the older laptops from the early 2000s, is you just see me, I took the battery out with no screwdriver. Back then, they wanted you to get into these computers. They wanted you to be able to make them modular and add what you needed and take out what you did not. So, like this battery is the standard, which just slides in here. But say this wasn't big enough for you, ThinkPad sold a upgraded battery that would stick out to about here and had like 4 or 5 more battery cells encased in plastic that would make the laptop last longer on battery life. This one here I usually get about an hour and a half, 2 hours on Windows 10 right now. So Windows XP probably would have been a little bit heavier. Another cool feature is this one in particular has the DVD drive in it, but you could change this for more storage. So if you didn't want just a single hard drive and you just had a lot of files or anything you needed to move around, this little switch right here on the top, you'd just move this towards the back rear of the laptop. This little switch pops up. Pull on that ejects the DVD-ROM drive, and then you slide it out. And there again, just like the battery you've seen, I did not even have to have a screwdriver to get into this. So then they made a bay that held, I believe it was 2.5 inch hard drives that you could simply slide inside of the DVD-ROM bay, and that would give you more storage. Me personally, I always just dealt with DVDs and CDs more, making installation, media, and everything else, so that just stays in there for me right now. And looking over some ports on the laptop, on the right side we have two USBs, two USB-A, and all these are going to be 2.0. 3.0 was not even a thing back then, so just keep that in mind. So these are USB-A 2.0. We have two of them on this side. The back of the laptop, we have that, again, ginormous AC power connector at 20 volts and a positive tip. We have a ventilation port on the back, a ventilation port on the left side. Then we have a VGA connector for connecting external monitors and such. A phone jack. You're not going to see these on new computers. These were for using a fax machine. This could have a fax card in it. This one doesn't right now, but you could plug in a phone cable from this into the wall, and then you could do fax and all that. This is a standard RJ45. Most modern computers have this. Most Windows computers, I'll say, have a Ethernet jack. That's for internet. You have a separate mic jack. A lot of new computers don't have this separated from the headphone. But with the early 2000s computers, you was separated from the mic and the headphones. So it was very easy to add extra peripherals without having to have a splitter like nowadays. Then over on this left side, we also have another USB, giving us a total of 3 on the whole laptop. These are the expansion card slots, PCI. These were really popular back then in early 2000s laptops for the reason of extra storage, SD card readers. That's actually what I have in this one right now. The ejection key for the bottom card slot is broke on my ThinkPad, but this would pull, you could push this little button like the top one has, and it kicks that out. And all this is a SD card reader that you could simply put into the ThinkPad, pop an SD card in there, so then you can move files over when dealing with stuff that didn't have connection to the internet to download a firmware update. You had to do it through an SD card or one of these regular PCI cards, which was basically a massive SD card back then. I actually have one right here. And no, you wouldn't think that the size would like double the storage. It didn't. These were only 4 megabytes. But they come in a little case like this. You open it up. Kind of reminds you a little bit of a cassette case. And then there you have your card that had many, many, many different pins on the back of the card. You pop that in, and it was basically just a ginormous SD card. So that's what those are for. The bottom one is the full size, and the top one, I believe they call it a PCI Mini, I think is what they call that. But I don't have anything that fits in that one. You can buy USB expansion modules too. I've seen some of these on Amazon. Instead of having this SD card reader, I could pull this out and pop in that module, and it would give me 3, I believe it was, 3.0 USB-A ports. Because back then there just wasn't many USBs on this computer. We only got 3. So yeah, that's for the left side, right side, and the back of the computer. Last side on the front is we have the screen lock. A lot of computers have these. You cannot pull the lid open until this is pulled over. It auto latches, and then you lift up. Just can't get a grip on it. These were a pain. This is why they done away with them. But there you go. You can see how it opens up. This is a feature that I really like. This is a physical Wi-Fi hard switch that would turn off the Wi-Fi card in the T60 so that you didn't have that running all the time, zapping battery life when there was like no Wi-Fi. And this little block, little shiny gloss black right here on the end, this is infrared. What you could do with these T60s, I've never got to try this because I don't have 2 T60s to demonstrate on, but you could supposedly do file share, and it would shoot a infrared beam, which is invisible, in between the 2 computers and receive files. So just another cool feature that they had back then that you don't see now. On the top of the computer, they also gave you indicator lights. This is something else you don't see on modern computers. Gives you a hibernation light, a AC in light, and a battery charging indicator. So that was also cool. And then if we open up the T60, this is not backlit. I don't know what year they actually started fully true, and I'll demonstrate why I'm saying true here in a minute, backlit screens. But this is just a regular chiclet keyboard, but IBM was really well known by these keyboards. I mean, this laptop right here, we see the Lenovo, so we know it's past 2005. The IBM ThinkPad T60 came out in 2006, I believe. So, going by the specs of everything else this laptop, I'm going to say it's about like a 2007 model. So this computer is almost 20 years old, and yet the original keyboard still functions. I have a Dell computer right now that's about half the age of this one, and this keyboard's bad. So that just gives you a little bit of a illustration on how good these keyboards really were. And you can hear a little bit of the noise on this one. They just had a slight click that wasn't really clicky. They are chiclet, but it reminds you a lot of a mechanical keyboard. And this dot, some people know what these are, some don't. It's a little dot right in the middle of the keyboard. This is a very signature ThinkPad function that they still do till this very day. In the 2000s and 80s, when you bought a mouse, it did not have an infrared sensor in the bottom of the mouse, which is a little light you see when you're using it. Some of them will be green nowadays, but they did not have that. They had a little tiny ball, like a rubber ball bearing, that would move around, and it would detect that as you move it on the table, and then that would translate and go into the computer. Well, after the trackball mouse, then they came out with the track point, which is what this has. And it basically functions the same way, but instead of using a ball, it's a joystick. It's a very early stage joystick. You can see when I take the cover off, it's just a small little black joystick in between the keys. You could buy these little rubber covers. The actual joystick itself, you could buy these in taller versions if you wanted it to stick up more. But this one just neatly sets, and you want to line this square up. Anyone taking these off, you want to line that up with that so that goes in smooth. But that just goes flush right with the top of that keyboard, so you don't feel it catch. And the purpose of that is just in case you didn't want to use the touchpad, which this does have. It is very small, but it is still on this computer. And we'll get a measurement on the size of that while we're here. Okay, so the touchpad's coming in at just a little bit over 2 inches. So you can see that's not really that big. So that's 2 inches by 1.5. And that's what you had to move the whole screen around with if you didn't have the track point. So the way you use the track point is you would be, of course, on the keyboard in your typing position. But anytime you needed to move, instead of using your thumb like this is just how I always used it. But if you didn't want to use your thumb, all you had to do is move your finger over to that joystick, and that would move the screen. And we're going to demonstrate that. And then this right here was your left and right click, and the middle button is your scroll. If you wanted to scroll, you could use 2 fingers like modern day computers, and the left click and right click. No click in the touchpad, it was physical buttons. But to scroll, you would hold the middle button and then use the track point to scroll up and down pages. So that is something really cool that they had. You did still have the arrow buttons too, which you could have used. So that gave you like 3 options just to scroll up and down a page. So many different ways. If something broke, you could still have another method of using a computer. And right here is our power button. Over here is a ThinkVantage button. They still have this on modern computers, the software, but not the button. And what this will be is this would be a software in between the hardware side of the computer and your operating system. So it would be a software called ThinkVantage. You would go in there, you could set settings such as the track point sensitivity, the touchpad sensitivity, the brightness, the infrared file share I believe was done through ThinkVantage as well. So that was just a button that would help you get to that quickly. If you're familiar with Panasonic or GTAC computers, they have this same function. Over here is your media controls, mute, volume down, volume up. and you didn't have the buttons over here with the function key. These was just regular buttons you could just press and they worked right off the bat. On over here we have all of our indicators, much like a taskbar on Windows 10. You had pretty much any indicator you wanted. We have numlock, we have caps lock, we have Bluetooth. This did have Bluetooth in it. Wi-Fi, hard drive indicator. This light, I'm not sure what that one is. I think it's the RAM, how fast and how much the RAM usage is. And then our battery, AC, and hibernation. So that's what all those lights are for. And then on the top of this laptop is something that probably is my most favorite feature. Before they could figure out how to put a LED strip and a diffuser in the whole back of the keyboard, they had a light in the very top, which I'm going to show you here in a minute when we turn the computer on, that shined perfectly down on the whole keyboard and lit it up very nicely. And it's just a small LED inside the lid of the actual screen up top. And that was up there so that you could have some light when working in dark conditions to use the keyboard. The screen size on this, the aspect ratio, is a 4:3. That's the most common for the T60. They did have a 16:9 version, which is like your modern computers, how they're 16:9. And if you don't know what that is, this video right now that you're watching is shot in 16:9 aspect ratio. So it's a wider view, where 4:3 is scrunched more, much like a 9:16 vertical for like YouTube shorts. So that's just the aspect ratio of the screen on what you set it to make the icons look right and they're not stretched. So with the T60, this one is a 4:3 aspect ratio, which was the most common. And on the whole top row of the function keys, much like our computers today, we do have many functions such as lock, battery indicator, hibernation mode, turn the speakers on or off, I believe is what this one is. Yeah, this one's Bluetooth, I think. That one's Bluetooth. Screenshots, you can turn the track point or the touchpad on or off. This is an ejection for USB drives, I believe. Numlock is really cool. If you notice, this is a condensed keyboard, but it's actually still considered a full size, because all you have to do is hold function and press numlock. And much like the GTAC and Panasonic rugged line of computers, the numeric pad is still in the keyboard, but it can just be toggled on and off. So you can see right here we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then the regular 7, 8, 9. So that's how you use your numeric keypad without having a full-size keyboard to cut down on the size. And then you could just use numlock to turn that off. And up here we have our screen brightness, and this does have a very bright screen considering the age of it. This little light shining down, that's for the light in the top of the screen that we're going to demonstrate here in a moment, that would light up the keys on the keyboard. Okay, so now we are going to finally turn on this computer. And as I said, this does have Windows 10 on it. I just installed it a few days ago, so that works good on here. But I'm going to have file. I'm going to tell you how to get it down here in the link in the description. And it's a whole list of the stuff that I've done on this computer to get Windows 10 to run smoothly. When you first install it, it does work pretty well, because this is 32-bit. I was going to put 11, but if any of you know how Windows 11 is, it is a 64-bit operating system, and they have no 32-bit version, unlike Windows 10. So I had to use Windows 10 32-bit, or you can do a Linux distribution, such as Ubuntu. You can use it on this as well, but it was pretty slow, and I found actually Windows 10 32-bit with them settings I loaded in this file I'm going to share with you guys to actually be quicker than Ubuntu. Alright, so now we're going to power up the device. I'm going to kill the light. Alright, so I've turned the lights off just so you guys can see this screen a little bit better with less glare. And we're going to turn it on here. And if you remember that button I was telling you about earlier, ThinkpadT, you can see the text down here. You can hit that, and that'll give you a whole list of stuff you can do, such as choose a temporary boot, go into the BIOS of the computer, and all that stuff. So we're just going to let the computer boot up here. I'm just going to leave the video on normal speed so you can see how long it takes. And mind you, this is with a 100 gigabyte Hitachi hard drive that is original. Regular spinning disk, not solid state. So now we are loading the Windows 10 icon. And now we are fully booted. And I'll have the timer stop where you guys can see how long it took for this to actually boot from power up to the login screen. Okay, you can see right after I hit that button, it immediately booted into the fully set up Windows 10 desktop environment. When I had the original, just plain unaltered Windows 10, I did not change any of the settings. This taskbar would take, I would say, about 3 minutes to fully generate. So with those settings, it really helped to keep this computer going fast and load just as soon as you hit the login button. So as soon as you hit the login button, it logs in, everything's up, and it's functioning. So now you can see, I'm going to zoom the camera out here so you guys can see that the touchpad is working. You can see over here, we can get this in Microsoft Edge. That does work. The track point, as you can see, it also works. The left click and right click on the track point buttons, which are right here, you can see that these work. We can open a new tab. There that is. And then we can scroll with the middle button. So we're going to close that out. This does have a Wi-Fi card built into it. It is very slow, of course, like you would expect. It is from the 2000s, so it's guessing 50 meg at the max, but me, I could only get about 24 out of it, and that was on 2.4 gigahertz network, getting that speed, or hardwired. I even tried hardwired into the Ethernet, and it was still about 24 megabits download, and the upload was about 12. So it is slow on the internet. It's mostly just nostalgic, retro tech. You're not going to really use this for everyday tasks. I mean, if you can, you could try it. I've used it for Reddit before. But as you can see, it is functioning. If we go into Notepad, we can see all the keys are working with the beautiful sound that we all know and love from IBM. And now we're going to go into the specs. If we go under the settings, and this does have Windows 10 Pro on it, by the way, too. I went ahead and threw Pro on it. We got all the functions we know and love. Very hard to navigate Windows 10 after using 11 for a few years. If anyone feels my struggle, put a comment down in the video. So now we can see the specs. I have changed the RAM in this computer, but the actual computer itself will accept 4 gig, but when you got Windows 10 on here and it detects this computer, it only lets like 3 gig get used. So right now we have the 32-bit processor, which I told you about, which is the Intel Core Duo at 2 gigahertz. Okay, and we have 3 gig of RAM. That is DDR3, not DDR4. And we have the 32-bit operating system with Windows 10 Pro on it. So you can see that works really good. BitLocker, I turned that off. I might do a video on this one day. I flashed Windows to this using Rufus, the tool Rufus. It's a media creation tool. And it will actually let you take a ISO file, which is what I use to install Windows on this. That's how all Windows machines get their operating system, is with an ISO file. And you can actually toggle a setting in Rufus to automatically turn off BitLocker encryption, because most of your Windows 10 downloads, when you install them, it'll automatically turn on BitLocker, and that just really slows the computer down a lot, because it's trying to encrypt that drive off of 3 gigs of RAM on a 100 gig spinning disk hard drive. So the ThinkPad really doesn't like that, considering its age. Alright, now we're going to use the keypad light here. I'm going to turn our overhead light off so that you guys can see this. Okay, so here is with no light. Now we're going to turn on the light. And there it is. We turn that off so you can see that again. You can see that really does help a lot. You can see the light right up here at the top of your screen. Simply on and off. There was no low or high. Just simply turn it on for dark or leave it off during the day. It's a very neat function that came on this computer for you to see in the dark and night operations. So yeah, that is pretty much it for the ThinkPad T60 with Windows 10 Pro with the settings. As I said, I'll have a link in the description giving you guys some instructions on how to get this working clean on your antique machines, you might call them. And so we're going to shut this down. This works on modern Windows 11 computers too. You can go in your settings and a lot of functions by using the Windows key. And I'm not saying just going in here and scrolling all day to try to find the right setting. To get into settings, you do Windows key and hit I. That'll take you right in to the settings quickly. You can do Windows E. That will take you into your File Explorer. Or you can do the most common one that I use is you can do Windows key plus X and then hit U 2 times. And that will shut down your computer in a full shutdown cycle. You can hit I instead of using the U button 2 times. You can do Windows key X, hit U, and then hit I. That will put it to sleep mode, which is good. If you're just walking away from your computer a moment, you don't want to fully boot back up, you can just hit I and that'll put it to sleep. It's a lot of cool functions you can use in there. If you guys want to explore some more of those functions, all you gotta do is hit the Windows key and X at the exact same time, and it'll have a whole list of functions that you can do on a computer, and whatever letter is underlined, that's what you hit on your keyboard to do that function. It's really cool, just a little side note feature you guys might like to use on your modern computers. You can see right here this screw that has a keyboard symbol on it. Lenovo was nice enough to actually indicate the screws you have to take loose to change the keyboard in this. So you can take those out. So if I remember correctly, you just take this cover off the top here, and these buttons are still attached to the keyboard, so be careful. And then you just lift the keyboard up out of the computer and unplug the ribbon cable. All seriousness, you can have this keyboard out of here in about 5 minutes and change it. So that's pretty much it, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video of the Lenovo / IBM ThinkPad T60. A great computer, very nostalgic, very retro, and a very special part in my technology journey. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, like and subscribe. Follow our link tree, link in the description of the video. And as always, I'm the Technology Tinkerer. Happy tinkering on your favorite projects, everyone.